Hello and welcome to Northern Lights, the podcast from Business Crack, brought to you by Barnum Media, shining a light on business across Cumbria. I'm Nigel Thompson, and today we're in a creative hub in the centre of Carlisle. Cumbria may well be known as a centre of engineering, tourism and agriculture, but it's also punching above its weight when it comes to the creative industries, from filmmakers to sound creatives, sculptors to weavers and everything in between. So can you make your mark on the world without leaving the fells? How easy is it to spread the word in a competitive industry? Well, for this edition of Northern Lights, I'm in the studios of Plus 3K in Carlisle, as I say, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Lou Kneath. Lou, thanks for having us here. Great coffee, by the way. Thank you very much. It's just kicking in.
We've always got good coffee here. When you're an animator, you need good coffee. Keeps you going.
I'm sure it is. And looking around your fantastic studios as well, you've got some great things which we'll talk about that you created yourself. But I'm just curious, before we start talking about how you are now, how did you get into this industry? And is it an easy industry to break into?
So animation is a beautiful space, definitely a slightly tricky one to break into. And it did take me a good few years to figure out how to get there. But I originally started training here in Carlisle. I actually went to the Brampton Road University of Cumbria campus, where I studied digital animation. And then went on to actually work for newspapers after that, working in design, before eventually fighting my way for a place in animation.
And what was the appeal? I mean, we've all seen cartoons, kind of classic cartoons going back years and years and years. Was it that? Was it something you saw when you were a kid watching TV and thought, that's fun, how do I do that? Or was it something else?
So I was always incredibly arty, always drawing, painting. Art was my favourite thing ever. I was also slightly obsessed with Disney as a kid, and I think it was actually the big Pixar hits in the early days, the Toy Stories, Incredibles, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo. They just lit my soul on fire, and I just thought, wow, how amazing would it be to be able to create such gorgeous entertainment that work across so many levels, families, kids, that people just fall in love with and create really special memories. You mentioned Finding Nemo. I think our family, I'm sure most families have their just keep swimming kind of motto as in life, and that's the thing about animation. It is fun, but also it can be used for more serious purposes to try and inspire people or give you hope, things like that. Is that something else that maybe appealed to you? Oh, absolutely. Animation can be used in every way possible. There is nothing that animation cannot do. It is just the most creative approach to telling stories, inspiring people. And of course, as a business over the years, a lot of my work is about communicating messages, about connecting with people, creating characters that people can fall in love with and are maybe more keen to learn from than just, another person that you've seen pop up on social media. So yeah, it's just got such wonderful reach, but it's also magical and inspiring. And like I say, anything is possible with animation. Yeah, I can see Dory now as we're talking. It's a kind of character that you don't easily forget if you're a fan of that. Exactly, that's the one. That's the one. It's a good motto for life, I think. Absolutely.
Is that. So go on, you're at university, you did the animation course at Brampton Road, as you mentioned, and then you entered it in America.
Yes, so I was incredibly lucky and I actually enrolled in a mentorship, which is essentially ran by animators who were from Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, some of the biggest studios in the world. And it was an incredible course because it was very international. So there was people from all over the world, all different time zones. A lot of us worked online, remotely, but there was also opportunities to go over there and meet your mentors and do events. And I actually graduated in San Francisco in 2012 after a very intensive 18 months learning the art of character animation, which is when you're learning character animation from animators at Disney and Pixar. It's a whole other level of intensity because those guys truly understand, believable, emotive, totally real performance and embedding that into art and into a character onto paper. I mean, to me, there is nothing more magical than being able to literally bring art to life in a way that can make you laugh, make you cry, and everything in between. The character could be, a kitten the character could be, you know, an inanimate object that you're trying to bring to life. You know, like in Cars, you know, they made the cars feel emotive and hilarious, or, you know, frustrating, and it's such a gorgeous skill to be able to do that, and also to watch people do that. And yes, has so much, like I say, just magic. Bringing things to life like that on screen is just pure joy.
But as I was saying, we're talking in your fabulous studio in central Carlisle, downtown Carlisle, and you must have the patience for saying, because I imagine a lot of it involves the machine in front of you, and hours upon hours of kind of, you know, doing things and scrubbing it, that's not right, and doing it again. So just patience and having that kind of going the extra mile to make sure it is just as you say, as somebody would, you know, the inflection of an eyebrow maybe, or the way that people talk, you know, to get it right. Does that take time and effort? Must it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
How many hours?
Oh, my goodness. So as an animator, you need the absolute patience of a saint, but you know what? You love it so much that you get lost in it. I do not know an animator who has not pulled at least 100 all-nighters to finish a shot. You know, because you get lost in it, and it's such focused work. And yeah, you scrub backward and forward. There's different stages to it, so you kind of block in the movement or the idea early on. You might even just, you know, sketch it up on paper first, and then start to refine it and polish. And obviously there's so many different styles of animation too. So the way I was taught through that program was very much, you know, CG, Pixar style approach to animation. But, you know, we do hand-drawn here in the studio, for example, and then you get the incredible works of stop-motion animation, which has a very different approach and very different techniques. And again, it takes years of skill to master being able to bring that stuff to life, you know, believably.
I mentioned in the introduction that you were based in Carlisle in Cumbria. Can you be an animator, successful animator? I think the answer is yes, and still be based in a place like Cumbria.
So I, somewhat selfishly and stubbornly, decided after I had graduated from this course in California, I actually went to work at CBeebies in Manchester, which was wonderful. It's such a buzzing industry. It's full of such wonderfully creative, hilarious, brilliant people. But I missed Cumbria, and I wanted to live in the place that I love and do the thing that I love. And I didn't feel like I needed to choose between those things. So decided, like I say, somewhat selfishly, that I would give it a go. And so I started my first studio back in about 2013, but I had been freelancing and working with lots of businesses creatively over the years since about 2009. So I'd had a good bit of experience building up some freelance work, as many creatives do.
Yeah.
You know, there's always someone who says, "Oh, could you design me a logo?" or "Could you help me with a website?" And, you know, we could always do a bit of everything. And decided to go niche and say, we're an animation studio. We make animations, we create characters, we bring them to life, we tell stories. And lo and behold, people started to knock on the door, and we worked with so many wonderful local brands and started to really build up a fantastic team. And from my network of working at CBeebies, but also through my course that I'd done in America with this huge international group of talented artists, was able to pull together teams remotely, as well as working with local artists who we could kind of help nurture and create opportunities for, started churning out some proper animated projects, all from Cumbria. And a lot of them inspired by our Cumbrian scenery, Cumbrian businesses, and this place that we know and love.
So even though you weren't seeing your clients face to face, you know, in this day and age, and especially as fast forward to, unfortunately, COVID times when remote working became a thing, and as we're talking now, it certainly is. But, you know, going before that was still possible, wasn't it? People trusted you, your reputation, people knew the kind of work you'd done, you know, and therefore, I suppose that really helped open doors. Is that true? Definitely.
And I do think connections are everything. So again, working with different people, being mentored by people, having those experiences working at studios in Manchester was the best thing I could have done to get me there, creating those initial connections, building those relationships, and also showing that you had the chops to do it and that you could deliver some brilliant work. This is the thing with animation as well. As much as art is subjective and you might like it or not like it, with animation, you can tell if it's right or not. Anyone could look at a character doing a walk cycle and know if it looked like someone walking or not. You don't have to have a necessarily animation trained eye to be able to tell if a character is believable. So there's a lot of, although it's full of artistry and creativity, there's a lot of technical approach to that, getting the anatomy right, getting weight, physics, timing, spacing, all of that. You just know because you see it every single...
You can just sense it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can feel it. And so I think a lot of that approach shows people straight away. You can see your portfolio. They can see the quality of your work. They know you can do this. And even the fact that we're a small studio in Cumbria, and with a small team that you've maybe not heard of, but you can see our work has that quality and can deliver whatever it is you need us to do.
Because we spoke last year, and your nice feature for Business Crack, very kindly, when you told me about the award you'd won, an international award, not just in this country. This was a US project you were involved in that was internationally recognised.
Yes, absolutely. So we have worked, really grateful. We've worked with companies all over the world, brands, broadcasters, organisations. It's a joy, actually. I love the versatility of it. And we had the opportunity to create a commercial for a fantastically creative remodeling company in Philadelphia, of all places. This was brought to us actually by a connection I had, again, connections are everything, in Philadelphia, who is the most wonderful director and creative. And we'd worked together over the years. We work with him quite regularly, actually, and stay in touch a lot. And he wanted us to do a hand-drawn animated commercial for this remodeling company in Philadelphia, which turned out to be the most gorgeous project. And it was I think it took us maybe 7 months to 8 months to do that 160-second commercial. So yes.
Wow, patience again.
Absolutely. We're all about patience. And that's with a small team, a relatively small team. I think we had maybe 12 artists working on that across that amount of time. So, you can imagine how much time and effort go into these things. But the end result was gorgeous, and it's done so beautifully. And yes, it did pick up some fabulous commercial awards.
I'll certainly vouch for the quality of the work. I'll put a link onto the show notes to go back to the story, but the image, I can still recall it. It's just, as you say, it's that kind of, it just felt right for the project you're involved in. I was going to ask you, what's the most unusual thing or the kind of hardest thing perhaps you've had to try and animate because of a commission? Is there something that's really kind of given you many sleepless all-nighters because it's been hard to get it right,
Definitely. I think there's so many technicalities to animation, and certainly the style that is chosen by the client. And over the years, we have done a lot of work in CG, where we do a lot more 2D work these days, which really speaks to my art student heart. We love to create beautiful illustrations and literally make them, just breathe life into them, make them spring off the page. And that is probably where my heart's at the most. But there's so many different ways you can animate things, and a lot of them come with a lot of headaches. So yes, there has been many times where I have developed more grey hairs than I'd like to admit, trying to figure out how to wrap up a certain effect and get things working correctly. But I suppose at the same time, that is part of the challenge. I think probably the most challenging projects we've done have been projects that have a tight deadline and a certain budget, but we want to always do the best, most brilliant, breathtaking thing we can, right? Every single thing we do, we want to give it the best. And and the challenge is, how great can we make this on this budget and on this timeline, and then just going for it, hell to leather, basically. And again, you learn so much from those opportunities, though. You find different ways of working. You find how to approach it from a maybe more efficient angle. You maybe find different qualities in your team and the people that we're working with who go, oh, why don't we try it like this? And getting that kind of group's approach and opinions and different experiences all together to try and effectively hit these, challenges from different angles. And I think that's part of the joy of making it happen.
Is it competitive? Because I imagine there's other people in the industry doing a similar kind of job to you. And also I'm looking at the IT thinking, I'm sure that others will be doing the same kind of things as you. But again, you mentioned contacts. Is it quite cutthroat? I mean, do you have to keep at it to try and get the work coming in?
I think it's certainly competitive getting in. Finding your in is challenging, but like I say, I think if you've got connections, if you make the effort to turn up at the networking events, keep applying for things, do the competitions, there's all kinds of things online now. You can churn out work all the time, just your own little ideas. Do you know what? In fact, that's probably the most important tip that I speak to students and graduates about, is always do your own shots, because that is you on the page, on the screen, putting your ideas into the world in how you would approach something, what makes you laugh, what makes you tick. That's interesting. And that is what will get you noticed. So competitively, getting in is the hard bit. Once you're in and you're doing a good job and you're turning up with a good attitude and delivering quality again and again and again, you'll always find opportunities. And to be honest, the last couple of years, animation and the TV industry in itself is changing. Everyone's going towards, so YouTube is the number one platform now. It's a totally different way of working. We used to work getting commissions and getting production opportunities from broadcasters, and we would have a fantastic new series to develop and work on. And it's so different now, the model in such a short space of time, and everyone's trying to scramble and adapt to work in that way going forward, which also incredibly competitive. But I truly believe that if you have a great idea and a brilliant team attached to it, and you don't give up, you'll get there.
Oh, good advice. And is that the advice you give to students? And also, do you kind of look over your shoulder, perhaps nervously, at some of these bright young students that you're helping nurture at the University of Cumbria, for example? Do you keep an eye on who's coming up, the talent of the future? Oh,
always, absolutely. And it's always very much for me the opportunity of, hey, if I can find someone who is better than me at anything, then I need them. In fact, if I can get everyone in my team who to be better than me and to lead and to have great ideas and to approach things in efficient, effective, wonderful ways, then bring them in. We'll give them a very big welcome to the team.
You're listening to Northern Lights from Business Crack. I'm Nigel Thompson. My guest this time on this edition is Lou Kneath, and we're in the offices of Plus 3K in Carlisle. I just wonder, where did the name come from? We're surrounded by this lovely image of a flying pig as well, and also the name 3K. Where did it come from?
Okay, so it's a little bit cryptic. And because we're so rooted in Cumbria and passionate about Cumbria and the area, we thought it'd be so cool to find a name that is completely specific to the area. And as one does, we went and did a lot of research and tried to figure out what that thing was. And for me, which seems kind of obvious now really, was we obviously have the glorious fells. And the 3 highest peaks above sea level in England are all in the Lake Districts, and they're all over 3,000 feet. So Plus 3K is the shortened, abbreviated version of over 3,000 feet.
And I mentioned the pig. Pegasus. Tell us about Pegasus.
Pegasus, my flying pig baby. I always felt that any great animation studio has a brand mascot, right? I mean, if you bring characters to life for a living, you need one yourself. I mean, Walt has Mickey, so I have Pegasus. It actually came about because we were doing some marketing ideas one day and discussing how animation can do anything. It can achieve the impossible. We can even make pigs fly. And I was like, oh my days, people, we need a flying pig. Get me a flying pig. And Pegasus was born. And we decided, so as a production facility, we work with certain software that is used for TV production. Specifically, we actually trained the studio to work with some software called Cell Action, which is used to make shows that you might have heard of called Bluey and Peppa Pig. Mm-hmm. And we said, we need to work with this software and retrain the team for production efficient work.
This
because
is specialist software, isn't it? So if you're in industry, this is the software you need to use. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. It's certainly up there as one of the good ones for sure. And it's a great bit of kit because you build the characters as little puppets in 2D though. So you do this in CG, but for 2D animation, it's normally hand drawn and things like that. Well, this way you get to build the character as a puppet, but then it's just ready to animate again and again and again and again and again, which is why it's great for things like Peppa Pig and Bluey. When you're working in television production, it is fast. It is fast moving. We need to churn this stuff out at a rate of knots. And, although we've got these amazingly experienced animators from all over the planet, including animators who've worked on Bluey and Peppa Pig, which is just awesome. So you bring in the most experienced, wonderful hub of talent, which is such a joy, and whilst also nurturing and training our artists in-house who are all Cumbrian based in that software too, creating some really fabulous opportunities. But it's just efficient. It's just a really fast, cost-effective way of making fabulous character animation. And that is exactly how we built Pegasus. So we built him to be able to do all the things that Bluey and Peppa can do and allow our animators to go wild and have fun and create some really great, lovable animations.
And Pegasus has got quite a big following now as well. You were saying before, so thousands of followers.
Yeah, so we actually decided to launch him on his own platforms, Positively Pegasus, if you want to give him a little check out. And we launched him just over a year ago, and since then, across TikTok and Instagram, he has over 50,000 followers.
Wow, brilliant! Yeah,
he's here to make you believe in the impossible and yourself. A little bit that I'm a little bit about. Who better to learn about believing in yourself than from a flying pig? Right?
Well, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Who wouldn't want to? Yeah. and as that's kind of sparked people, you mentioned you're very much involved in national, international projects, but very local to home as well. You were saying you're very keen to work with businesses in Cumbria. I mean, have you kind of opened the eyes, do you think, to people to the idea that maybe animation doesn't have to be very expensive, and it can work for a brand that's very local to Carlisle or Kendal as it can in California?
Oh, absolutely. And this is probably our hardest thing to work with at the moment, is that I think because we've done work with broadcast, and we did a wonderful series with Sky Kids, we did all the animation production on a show called My Friend Misty, which was executive produced by Fern Cotton, and it's a gorgeous little hybrid show. So it's live action, but we did all the animation and brought the character to life, who talks to the kids and helps them with their problems and things. And I think people see that we work with big brands and broadcasters and all these big fancy projects, and they think it's out of their reach. And they think that it's not achievable. And it's such a shame, because that is my biggest bugbear, is like animation can work for anybody. And we have developed these ways where it can be incredibly cost effective. I mean, imagine that you have a character who replaces the, face of the business, or works with them even, and you can develop so much content with an animated character. They're timeless, they're ageless. Mickey Mouse, I think, is 97. I mean, he's looking good for his age,
wow.
Right? These characters have legs for days. Peppa, I think, is 19. And Bluey is like one of the youngest big brands, who is like 6 now. But typically, most of the biggest brands have been going since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Exactly.
And still feel fresh, don't you?
Completely. And recognisable and memorable and trusted.
Yeah.
And if you can create that for your brand or for storytelling, and especially now with social media, the great thing with Pegasus is that we've been able to experience how to build up this library of animation, but then apply it and adapt it every day, or however many posts a week we want to do, to relevant, trending, topics that we want to work with. And we can do that for anybody, and it doesn't matter the size of the brand or business. I think animation should be for everybody.
What about the future? I mean, are you nervous about AI? We keep being told it's got good things, it's got bad things. When I see things like images created through AI, I mean, it's only a leap, isn't it, between that, I imagine, and animation. Is it something that's on your worry list or want to watch out for, or is it useful? Is it something that actually you're looking forward to?
Do you know, in the first place, it was terrifying, and everyone was freaking out about it, and all of my wonderful creative friends and colleagues and relationships, it's a scary thing. And, the industry is in a tough place right now as well. So I think that doesn't help matters. However, I felt like the only way I can really get my head around this and plan for the future is to understand it. So I started working with AI a lot over the last 12 months, and just to really learn what it's capable of and what I should be potentially using it for to help us as far as running a business goes. And my short answer for you, otherwise I'll keep you here all day, Nigel. My short answer is that I never want to lose the creative integrity of my business, because for me, an animation studio is about artists. It's about genuine, brilliant, unique ideas that can only come from a human, okay? And that has to be at the forefront of everything we do to create the most wonderful, believable, and also consistent, well-designed work. I believe that humans are the best at doing that. However, there's lots of jobs in any business, specifically little businesses, small, medium businesses, that can most definitely be helped or even potentially replaced with a lot of what AI is capable of. And very excitingly so. So for me personally, it's been completely about building infrastructures and opportunities where AI can help me figure out those challenging things that would typically be brought in by, leadership roles, things to do with, being a thought leader, being a visionary in your industry, looking at strategies, monetization, revenue streams, and even things like upholding the vision, the brand values, and the mission that is your company. Whatever you created your company for, how can AI support you in making sure you follow through with that and create a very streamlined, efficient, successful pipeline? And that is where I'm bringing AI into my business.
So when you think about it, what you're saying is basically use it as a way of, because you can't do both, you can't be busy running a team, animating, and keeping an eye out to see what's happening in the rest of the world, whereas AI can do that for you and brief you at a time to suit you. It's kind of an extra pair of eyes and is an assistant, if you like. Is that how you see it?
100%. In fact, I've been playing with building AI agents, which if you guys ask AI how to do that, it'll tell you. Building my own AI agents, who they've got names. They're like good friends now. Hopefully one day when the Terminator thing happens, I'll be like, but guys, don't you remember me? But jokes aside, they have, I've been building them specifically to become experts in those certain areas of business which I would love to have those extra pair of hands on, which sometimes, whether budgets don't allow you to bring in certain, consultant level expertise, that AI can absolutely help you do. And it's bringing in any areas for me that doesn't take away from the creativity, that doesn't remove the jobs and the need for all these wonderful artists who've spent their years, their lives dedicated to this craft and honing it, and that genuine magic that gets poured onto the paper. No AI is ever going to replace that for me. I just feel like that it's never going to be as good as a real human doing it. And integrity-wise, it's a no-brainer. So every other aspect that I can get AI to help me run the business, that's where I'm going to lean into.
I mean, Lou, we could talk again. We should do this again. I think there's a lot more I want to ask you. But when it comes to the future, I mean, obviously, I get this sense of positivity from flying pigs to the future of AI. You've really kind of got a vision. What's your advice then to companies listening, or people in business in Cumbria listening to this and wondering whether perhaps a bit of trepidation about the future? What's your top tips that you give to businesses in operation, also to students upcoming as well, would you say?
So for me, I have learned over the years that following your gut instinct, your intuition, where your energy aligns, I've really found through my life that there's these magical connections, and if you set your sights on a dream, a goal, even, it could be a place or just a feeling that you want to follow, it's like when you start going down those paths in that intentionally aligned way, things will start falling into place. Things will move for you to be there. If you are meant to be there and it feels good and you feel excited about it and it has a positive pull to who you are as a human being, then it will work out. And you've just got to believe in yourself, believe in the possibility, and just try. And by bringing your own authenticity to that, wear your heart on your sleeve, follow your heart. As cheesy as it sounds, Positively Pegasus would tell you this too. You've just got to believe in order to make those waves and, excuse the pig pun, soar.
Excellent stuff. Lou, thanks very much. It's been a privilege to talk to you. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, where we have a new fortnightly newsletter containing more stories from Business Crack. And feel free to comment, ask a question, and share this podcast. I'm Nigel Thompson. Thanks for listening to Northern Lights.